In today's episode, you'll learn how the advancements in AI video in 2025 and going into 2026 can impact your business. We discuss the importance of storytelling regardless of traditional or AI video production. We also explore what authenticity looks like with the abundance and ease of AI-generated video. Finally, we discuss the impacts of AI slop and where corporate avatars come in. Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, brought to you by 0to60.ai, where you get the latest strategy, tactics, and trends about the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye. I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw, and we have a special guest today. His name is Trevor Seeley from Framesmith, and we're talking about the impact of AI video for business in 2026. So thank you very much, Trevor, for joining us today. We've seen a pretty significant progress in terms of AI video from 2022, 2023 to really where we are today. And even to the point where, a lot of the stuff we're seeing, I'm starting to say, is that AI or is that not? Because it's the blurring between what's real and what isn't. It's becoming more and more harder to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. First off, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, absolutely. I think just from, an AI video perspective with Framesmiths, that's what we do is video production at a professional level. And I think it wasn't really until, halfway through last year, Q3, really started seeing that shift in what was really possible at a professional level. I found personally, it took a lot of work to get it up to that professional tier. And then it's kind of like near the end of the year, you really started to see this explosive growth in people being like, what am I seeing? Is this real? Is it not? And now obviously all the social feeds are just completely populated with you don't really know anymore. It's getting that good.
One of the things that we're talking about earlier, Jeff and I were talking about before we did the show is that, one of the things that you could do before is like, hey, prove it, right? Show me a video of you doing it.
Right.
That's no longer proof. That's like, okay, that you could have easily created that. That's
It's
no,
true.
like there has to be more ways to prove authenticity. And that's kind of where I want to go into next is how do you not just prove authenticity, but for businesses, how do you leverage AI, but also remain authentic at the same time where anyone, any of your competitors, any business can create literally anything.
It's a good point. I mean, it is getting to that point where yeah, you could just have another AI avatar showing themselves creating it. But I think it comes down to the messaging and having that emotional connection with your audience. I think at the end of the day, obviously there's use cases for AI and traditional production, but with when the use cases make sense for AI, doesn't matter if it was made with AI or not. I mean, if the same messaging and emotional resonance is coming across out of the message to the audience, I don't know. Like I guess some people will always hold it against AI because it's AI. But if you're getting the same end results, same conversion, same connection, does it even really matter? It's just a new tool and how you use it.
Well, and I think in full disclosure, Trevor and I are business partners, and Trevor and I used to work together. And it was interesting because back in the day when they came out with, the iPhones and you could start recording video on phones, everybody was like, oh, you guys are doomed. Your business is going out because you're going under because everybody can record their own videos. But I think that's the one thing that most people don't realize is that anybody could shoot a video. You have been able to shoot a video for the past 10 or 15 years on your iPhone, but it still takes an understanding of storytelling. And you need to be able to put an interesting story together. You need to be able to, have images that support the story. And so there is a real skill set to doing it. And I always use this comparison is that, me and my buddy, who's a professional chef, can go buy the same steak from the grocery store, but how he prepares it and how I prepare it are completely different. And I think that's one thing that I think a lot of businesses need to understand is that just because you can create video with Sora doesn't mean you should necessarily put your junior marketing person out there and starting to just create all kinds of AI video content and sharing it with your customers because you may do more damage than good.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, yeah, the AI slop is real right now as the term comes out. But at a professional production level, there's a lot of iteration, there's taste, and you have to be coming at it from the perspective of of commercial makers, people who have experienced the directing, understand the process, because even though it's new tools and it is kind of, a completely new approach to making it, you're still leveraging all that background information to get the results you want and what businesses ultimately need at this day and age.
And Trev, maybe could you just kind of walk us through just the process right now? Because it's not just a single prompt and boom, you get your video, right? Like there's lots that you're doing to be able to get the content that you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be, each use case is a completely different puzzle. And I think that could be a like that you could talk about this for probably an hour straight on how to get the end result you want. But in generally speaking, it's you're balancing between 4 to 5 different AI video models for the AI video generation. But even before that, the foundation is all through your images and getting your base images. So you're using all the different tools from Mid-Journey to Nano Banana Pro to all the different Flux models, maybe even internalizing some, having your own workflow on your computer. There's a lot of different approaches and a lot of iteration and bouncing between and pulling the best from each to get that base image. And then that's just for your image. And then for the videos and consistency, that's a whole other ball game too. It's like going into another 4 to 5 different models, juggling between them, which ones have their best strengths, and that's constantly changing almost every few weeks. So you kind of have to be up to speed on that and then know how to iterate them and then iterate off them and then yeah, keep going. I mean, and even through that process, there's the whole other level at the production level. You have to be upscaling constantly. So, in between your base images and the video, you're upscaling constantly to 4K to make sure you're getting the right results.
And
I
that
did
doesn't even touch on, sorry, Carl, I was just going to say that doesn't even touch on your voiceovers, your music, your color correction,
Yeah,
all of those other elements that come into it to
totally.
making good quality AI.
No, I just wanted to touch on exactly what you mentioned, Jeff, because for people, do they even know that color correction? Do they know depth of field? Do
Yeah.
they know, extreme close up versus wide shot? And that is the difference between you can tell someone who knows what they're doing, and part of, all those technical knowledge feeds into the storytelling, right? We've seen a
Hmm.
lot of just the use of lighting tells a story, right? The type of lighting you're using. And most people don't know the difference between split lighting, like Rembrandt lighting, like, and the use, why you would use that lighting to tell that story. So that's what I'm thinking, is that just like a doctor would know what questions to ask and how to prompt the system or the AI system that using, a videographer, cinematographer would know how, like, what things to add in to ensure they get the proper shot to ensure consistency as well. So, and while some people say, "Oh, okay, eventually AI is going to get good at that," I don't think so, because I think, like, the knowledge that somebody who has years of that type of shooting, understanding all those different elements, would far surpass someone who's just, as if I'm like taking a video with my phone, like a grade 12 video, right? Like, there's a big difference between someone who knows what they're doing and someone who doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the framing of your shots alone, that will dictate a lot of the emotional connection and dramatic elements in that scene. So like bouncing between the different framing, angles, all of that matters. And I think you have to tell it that. You have to
Yes.
direct it that way. So it really does come down to your point of the experience of whoever's kind of controlling the tools.
One thing I'm curious about and getting your guys' take on is just what does AI video now allow us to do, I think, going forward? Because I've always been a huge proponent of branded content. I mean, why does Ford have to pay a studio to go out and create a Yellowstone when, will a Ford have the ability to create its own Yellowstone in the future? Will we start getting content like television programming or movies directly from brands because they'll be able to use AI video, AI generation to be able to create some of this content? And Carl, this kind of goes to your, we've talked a lot about the Star Wars trailers and the deal with Disney with OpenAI. You know, is that potentially the future of content? Entertainment content is coming directly from brands.
I mean, there's already, even in traditional filmmaking, there is a shift towards brands getting involved now. Like they're starting to get involved in actual studio productions and shows, and it's kind of, I think, though, in the traditional filmmaking, the model's still kind of changing it, and from even without talking about AI. But as soon as you layer in AI, yeah, I think it's a bit unknown still, but it's going to be integrated into every aspect of production, in my opinion. Whether it's traditional commercials to filmmaking, it's going to be involved across the spectrum. Yeah.
I remember the conversation about branded content a while back, like all the way back in 2012, 2013, 2014, because at that time there was, oh, these major brands will partner with film studios to create series to promote their product. And we didn't see that much, but I also think it costs a lot of money to do something like that, right? Imagine if Ford or a Nike sponsored the Boys TV series. That would be an extraordinary expense. But now I think because you can do a lot of that with generative AI, and yes, you'll pay for tokens, but not to the degree of paying for the actors and everything, smaller brands can create these series that would be kind of neat. Maybe not like full 30-minute per episode, but very short films, 1 to 5 minute series that could promote their brand in a very unique way.
It's interesting, Carl, because you talk about a 30-minute and a 60-minute. The reason 30 and 60-minute shows were developed is because that's the way the television networks needed it to create their content scheduling.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be 24 minutes with 6 minutes of commercial time. If it's entertaining, I'll watch a 12-minute show. I'll watch a 17-minute show. The problem, I think, and Trevor, coming from your background, I mean, you went into, you produced a few movies, and I mean, the problem is the funding, right? And I don't know if you guys have seen the series, The Studio with Seth Rogen, and it's funny
No.
because in the first episode, he comes in and the boss is like, okay, you got to make a movie about Kool-Aid. He goes, I got to make a movie about fucking Kool-Aid? But I think the problem with a lot of branded entertainment in the past is a lot of the brands think that you got to have the brands front and center, and the show or the series has to be about the brand. Well, if you created a Yellowstone and you just happen to use Ford trucks in it, you don't have to have. That's where I think a lot of brands make the mistake, is they keep trying to promote their brand and make it about the truck, not about the Western series. And I think that's where that, with generative AI, I think that a lot of those people in Hollywood have an opportunity to go to these brands directly, use generative AI because it's more affordable, and create content. But it still comes back to good storytelling.
Absolutely. And there's a massive opportunity for brand integration, even from filmmaking, TV shows, but all the way to commercials and stuff. I think that's one of the biggest use cases for AI right now too. Is just you can do so much with brand, products, messaging, all that kind of thing. And I think in like traditional filmmaking, you're still, like, to your point, you're just reducing your production budgets. Like, that's the goal with AI. You don't want to be replacing necessarily your director and actors, in my opinion, on traditional filmmaking, but you can do so much outside of that. And I think everyone gets hung up on that one idea right now, where you're just replacing everyone. It's just a new tool. And in traditional filmmaking, you can reduce your scope and cost dramatically and allow this massive amount of new storytellers to enter the field. And I think that's what we need. And more fresh voices, less these big studio productions. And I think AI is giving the tools for that. It's just going to take some time to make that happen. And then, with brands and things, there's an opportunity for them, in my opinion, to be doing some original storytelling too.
Well, I think Ben Affleck had a really good segment. I think it was last year or really early last year, talking about like, will it replace? No, because the reason is, when do you stop? I think he was mentioning, it's like, you can keep just creating content after content, but good storytellers, good directors, producers know this is where you stop, right? And I think we've seen studios and series go way longer than they should, right? Like, for example, and this is my opinion, and I haven't watched a series, is Stranger Things. You saw this has nothing to do with AI too. It's like, we're now going to do a lot of spin-offs. We're like, do you really need to spin that off? Like, how much more spin-offs can you possibly do to tell that story, right? Or like, does a good director, producer say, hey, this is it, it ends, this is the culmination of everything we work towards, and it be stop? And I think like that's a skill on its own. It's like, when do you stop? When do you finish something? I always thought that was a really good point that he mentioned.
Trevor, something else we've talked about too is even creating spokespeople, avatars for companies.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge opportunity there. Using AI. I mean, I always look at the Geico gecko or the TELUS animals. There's a huge. You don't necessarily want to recreate your CEO necessarily, maybe, but can you talk a bit about that, just avatars and potential?
Yeah, I think there's like exactly to your point, there's multiple scenarios you could use those in from, key personnel within the company like CEOs or whoever, based on their limited scheduling and the demands of that job. But if they want to be giving, certain traditional instructions or guidance or whatnot, you could definitely do that now. And you could use their voice, their likeness, their image, all that kind of stuff. And pretty well, like pretty good. I think from at a professional level, if you're doing commercials and things, I think it's like, you're getting really close. It's never going to be, well, right now it's not like 100% identical, but it's getting pretty darn close. On the flip side, just, creating these brand creatures and images, absolutely. There's a huge potential. And something I think, like we discussed earlier, there's an opportunity to build that brand and use that and give it a personality and consistency across all your messaging. And I think that's something that a lot of brands should take advantage of for sure going to the future. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars anymore. It's more a matter, in my opinion, of the messaging and creating that personality, that identity that you're going to use throughout all your content.
I would want to touch on there then the idea when we you talked earlier about slop, because it's so easy to create, it's inevitable everybody, and the term marketers always ruin everything or salespeople always ruin everything, is that it's easier because it's easy to create. You now can create whatever you want. And I see a lot of AI people say, hey, I can teach you how to create hundreds of blog posts, use Nano Banana to create hundreds of images or whatever for your social feeds, which is feeding into all that slop that goes in. So, how would a business stand out when they expect, when people are just seeing all this stuff being created and it's maybe a little too perfect, but it doesn't obviously either tell a story, it doesn't connect to the brand, but it becomes so easy to generate?
I guess that's I mean, when I talk to people, I hear everyone has a bit of a different definition of AI slop too. Some people, it's just like all AI is slop. You're gonna have those people for sure. Or it's like, all the crazy cats online or like the door cam footage, that's slop, things like that. I mean, super entertaining though, but still considered slop. But I think when it comes to companies and brands, if you're creating the right kind of content and you're very intentional and you're not just mass producing, just random things, you're intentional with your messaging and your visuals and your story, and you nail that right. I don't, to me personally, there shouldn't even be that much of a difference between what you're seeing there and traditional video or traditional commercials. It should almost be like you don't even know, or if you're not going for that angle of hyper realism, like you're just filming with a camera, then at least carry the right branding and messaging and not get maybe into playing into certain trends or whatnot. But in my opinion, if you're really intentional with your AI and you do it right, it should hit the mark on your branding and messaging and not even fall into these other categories or be distinguishable.
And I think that a lot of that slop comes from when somebody, like you say, Carl, somebody says, well, I can create 100 social media posts for you. And somebody just goes and does it and automates it and releases it.
Yeah.
And there's no human review and there's no real point or purpose behind it. It's kind of no different than writing an article and just releasing it and not actually having some kind of a purpose or a point behind it. Cause that's where I think falls into that slop. But and it's interesting because there is lots of criticism, and let's maybe talk about that because Carl, just before we got on this call, you had said that a lot of people get excited about some of the movie trailers, the Star Wars movie trailers, and they think it's great. But then you get a lot of people complaining about the Coca-Cola commercial. And they'll talk about inconsistencies with the trucks in the commercial and everything else. And I personally, I mean, I spent close to 30 years in the video production business. Um, Most of the people I see complaining are the creatives. The creatives, whether they're from the agency side, the video production side, they tend to be the ones that complain. And I can go back, you know, 25 years ago when digital cameras first started to come out, all of the 16 mil and 35 mil camera guys were saying those digital cameras are garbage. They'll never replace film. They'll never be as good as film. And they were bitching because they weren't willing to change and accept the new technology and figure out a way to use it to their benefit. They were more they were frustrated, so they just bitched about it. But I don't know what you guys have for comment wise, but I tend to find it's a lot of people in the creative space, because it goes back to the Fiverr video we talked about. You know, the CEO of a company doesn't care whether it was generated by a human or by AI, as long as it's getting them the results that they're looking for. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I think the first thing is that you're right, because when you see the comments, it's a lot of it by creatives, right? And I think there's some good points, like, well, AI stole my stuff, or AI stole, like, we can't deny that a lot of the AI has been trained on a swath of content. And I would imagine a good chunk of that would be things that they didn't have permission to be trained on. But the other thing, though, is, are all these businesses or all these people going to stop using it because of that? No, we're seeing that adoption is higher and higher and higher. And then I'm also seeing that's like, hey, it also opens up to a new type of creation where, like some of the, yes, we have people creating memes, creating songs, but it's also creating new things that, I always thought being creative and being unique is a combination of styles and genres. Like, you combine them to create your own, but you've got inspiration from different elements, right? You don't really want to copy one person, but maybe you want to take inspiration from two or three, combine them, and to make your own kind of version of that. And that's what I always thought about this element. It's like, hey, there's a new opportunity to do the combination to produce something unique and original, but leveraging the tools and give more ability for everybody to actually do it.
You know what, Carl, and it's funny because I've had that from a lot of people. Well, it's trained on my voice, or it's trained on this image. I'm going, well, if I'm a musician and I listen to a certain genre of music and then I start creating similar type music, am I not stealing and learning from the previous creators? Or if I watch movies, a certain line of movies, and then I become a movie director and I'm creating similar type movies, am I not really? I don't know. I don't buy into that. I think, again, it's just people that are scared of the technology and threatened by it. And so the best way to react is to criticize.
I agree with both of what you both said for sure. I think there's a lot on that front. I think there still needs to be a lot of parameters to be built, and more policies around it, and protection to some degree of what's being created and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a new tool, like you said, and it's how you use the tool, and kind of work with it as things keep coming. You guys both said it really well. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think that, again, I look at AI video and it's not changing. I think there's huge opportunities. I think businesses, no different than anything else to do with AI, is that you really need to start looking at tools like AI video, audio, image generation, and start figuring out how you can use it to the benefit of your business. And we always talk from the 0 to 60 standpoint, is that, today you can increase your efficiencies by 10 to 40% using AI. I don't think that's any different. AI video isn't perfect for every scenario, but it's great for a lot of the scenarios. And I think it's going to allow a lot of organizations to create more content, more engaging content, if done right, to be able to help promote their businesses, educate employees, customers, and everything else. So I think there's huge potential, and there's going to be so much more to come. I mean, you've said, Trevor, I mean, really the past 6 months, there's really been huge advancements, and I think it's only going to continue into 2026.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
last thing I wanted to get your opinion on, Trevor, is, so there's this post from Adam Mosseri, who is the CEO of Instagram, and it's a really good post looking into 2026. But one thing that kind of hit me, as someone who did former video work, and you who did video work at too, is, so there's a little piece here, and I'll read it. The camera companies are betting on the wrong aesthetic. They're competing to make everyone look like a professional photographer from the past. Every year we see phone cameras boast more megapixels, more image processing. We're romanticizing the past. Portrait mode is artificially blurring the background of a photograph to reproduce the soft glow you get from the shallow depth of field of a fixed lens. It looks good. We like to look good. But flattering imagery is cheap to produce and boring to consume. People want content that feels real. We're going to see significant acceleration of more aesthetic over the next few years. Savvy creators are going to lean into explicitly unproduced and unflattering images of themselves. In a world where everything can be perfected, imperfection becomes a signal. The reason why I put that in is because for the longest time, people have been limited to get a very, the quality of a professional photo or video because they either lack the skills to do it or they don't have access to the gear to do it. And there's always gear versus skills and so on in that space. But now, because everyone can do it, the thinking is you have to be more imperfect. You have to be, we don't want the shallow depth of field. We don't want the color correction. We want like the super raw, as if we're in grade 12 taking a video with a camcorder before the phone. That's as real as you can get. I'd love to hear your take as going through this. We're kind of doing a zig because of the perfection that AI provides.
Yeah, I think definitely I've been hearing that too. Everything's too perfect. It's like, you know, you got to find the imperfection to be perfect now. It's kind of a interesting place, and if anything, it might help people put down their phones and scrolling and actually go outside and touch grass or something like that, which is not a bad thing. But I think to your point, Carl, that to me that screams, social media content makers on the socials platform. And so I think in that case, that probably does make sense. But when you're making a professional commercial for a company, I still don't think they're going to want it to look bad, right? They're not going to want it to look super imperfect. I don't think. I think they're still going to want like if a car commercial is making a car commercial, they want their car to look freaking amazing, and they want to show it fast. They want to show it moving like
Yes.
down a dirt road, like doing all these cool things, and so how you create that, as long as it looks super realistic and nails it. Apologies for the kids screaming in the background, but as long as you as long as you nail those things,
that's real.
That's real.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not using
well,
AI.
no, you're right. I don't
that's
want
my
Honda CRV to be going through Calgary in like -5 when the roads are like a mess. My car is dirt and I'm going to Safeway, right? Like you don't want that commercial. You want it going through the dirt road by itself with all the different angles, not taken by some person behind me doing a handheld cell phone. Because as authentic that does not show why the car itself.
A good example, and I know we got to wrap this up here, but I mean, there's a new show out called The Abandons, and it was shot in Alberta, and I thought, oh, it's pretty cool. It's a Western show. I like these Western shows. And I started watching it, and the story just was weak. And yet some of the images were beautiful images, but they almost tried to cover up a weak story with beautiful images. And I lost interest. Like I would have rather have seen crappier quality images with a better story. And I didn't care about the beautiful landscape shots. And it just seemed like they got their priorities mixed up. And I think that's what you're seeing on social media is that everybody wants to look perfect. And it's not really, it's about that authenticity. And I think it's less about being perfect. And I laugh at that, Trev, but I mean, your kid, screaming in the background is no different than my dog. Sorry. My dog just puked under my desk here while we're recording this. That's life, but I think again, it's about that. I still go back to it's the quality of the content, it's the storytelling, less about the perfection. But I also think if you can match the two up, that's where the real magic is. If you can get good quality content, images with a great story, that's where the magic's happening. And I think that can happen from a corporate standpoint, from a business standpoint. That could be training videos. It could be social media posts. It could be, whatever branded content. I still think that, the key thing is I think there still needs to be a human in the loop. And I still think you need to think about, and what you said earlier, Trevor, is be intentional with your messaging.
Absolutely. Okay. I think the only last thing to add there is, and I don't think we even touched on half this, all the different use cases on things from just for, with all being intentional, you have all these new ways you could use it as a company. I don't think some people have really changed their perspective on how to approach production now. You can be A/B testing, for example, content at a ridiculous scale, but still being intentional and creating, the right imagery, but just changing out certain elements of your messaging on the fly based off consumer reactions. So there's a whole other element of production here, I think, that is going to be exploding in 2026 and beyond on, how you use your video to really leverage results, really.
Learn about future AI business trends by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode? Want to learn how you can use AI to level up your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.